Hi, it's me, Tracy, your literary and tea time companion, hoping you will join me for one more cup of tea before we close out the month of June. I hope you'll grab your cozy cup, your favorite beverage, a snack, your pet to snuggle up with. Let's settle in for a cozy chat together, sharing our books and reading highlights from this month. I had to quickly grab a shawl before I started filming. It's suddenly very chilly today here in the Northern Hemisphere. We've welcomed summer, but so far it's a bit like spring. One day it's very warm, and then the next day it's very chilly. Today is a little bit rainy and chilly, so here we go. I hope that you are doing well and that you have had a very good month of reading during June as well. I also just wanted to say, speaking of the rain, I thank you for the lovely feedback from my most recent reading vlog, Reading with Me, that everyone was really enjoying the rain in the background along with the music and reading along. I really thank you so much for all the lovely feedback and comments and conversation. Thank you. It's been kind of a different month of reading. It might not seem like it as we roll along, but there were some books I was not able to get for this month, and which surprised me. But it was still a great month of reading. And so I will just get started with some fiction like I normally do. And also this is my Regency reading for this month, Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility. Beautiful cover, this Penguin Classics edition. And many of you already know this classic tale of two sisters, the Dashwood sisters, but in case you don't know and would like to know more about Sense and Sensibility, this is such a lovely story about two sisters and their emotional development as well as social development. And of course, as Jane Austen often does, she sneaks in a lot of sort of social commentary and satire, and not the least exploring gender roles during the time of the Regency period. And in Sense and Sensibility, we meet the Dashwood sisters, Eleanor and Marianne. There is a younger sister, Margaret. We don't see much of her in this story. It's the elder sisters primarily. And this is a story that follows the sisters have recently lost their father in the beginning of the story, and they have to remove from their family home since inheritance means that the male line inherits the fortune, the property, the house, everything. Unfortunately, they have been left out and they have to move from their family home into the countryside, and they are faced with living with much more reduced finances and social situations. And they arrive in their new situation, but they're meeting new people and to brighten their days. And we soon find Eleanor in love with Edward Ferrars, and Marianne in love with the very passionate Willoughby. And we follow their story through the ups and downs of their experiences of love in these situations, because they find themselves initially with men they cannot have. Edward Ferrars is promised to another, and Willoughby unfortunately breaks his relationship with Marianne very suddenly because fortune means more to him than love, and he finds a wealthy woman to marry instead. And all along they have people to support them. But what is a lovely part of this story is not just the romances, but also how the sisters are exploring, sometimes very quietly and not so quietly, their own relationship and how they are learning to lean on each other in this new chapter of life. And how their different personalities, very conservative, cautious Eleanor and very, very passionate and bold Marianne, they learn to accept each other in new ways and even adopt some of the others' personality, Eleanor becomes a bit more bold in her expression later on, that she will feel free to share how she feels. And Marianne will find a more steadiness of character after her great disappointment in love. But then she finds love in the lovely Colonel Brandon, who is behind the scenes as a friend, a supportive and faithful friend, but who loves her very steadily all the while. It's a really lovely story. And I just feel like Austen is crafting such a lovely narrative here in how the relationships play out in the way that they are meant to, and supporting that growth of the characters all along, and the contrasts of the characters. It's just such a beautiful balance of the emotion, the tenderness, the growth. And it is always, Austen is exploring the complexities of love and relationships in a very beautiful way. If you haven't read Sense and Sensibility, it is also a very good starting point for reading Jane Austen if you haven't already before. That Sense and Sensibility and Pride and Prejudice are very great entry points into reading Jane Austen and literature from the Regency period. Sense and Sensibility was my only Regency-related reading for this month. I had a very difficult time getting something else from Regency reading, art, architecture, as I was hoping. I think that I might have to revise my list, my Regency reading list that I developed back in January, because some of the titles I'm just having a really difficult time getting a hold of through Library Interloan. And so this month there was just the one reading, and Sense and Sensibility is such a satisfying read. I was very happy to have just that for my Regency reading this month. And interestingly, that was my main fiction choice for this month. I did start another fiction, a fantasy fiction, The Potions Dealer by Lidiya Foxglove, but I wasn't able to finish in time for this video for sharing for the end of June. So I will share a bit about that next time. Moving on to some poetry, I was wanting to read more of Katherine Mansfield, and I borrowed from the library the poems of Katherine Mansfield, but I was also hoping to borrow a great collection of her short stories and read them in tandem. That was another one of those occasions where that just did not work out, but I greatly enjoyed the collected poems of Katherine Mansfield. And Katherine Mansfield, if you haven't met her before, she was a very notable figure from the modernist literature movement from the late 19th century and the early part of the 20th century. Her poetry, I would say, is probably not as well known as her short story writing. She was primarily known for her short stories. And I feel like she should be celebrated a bit more for her poetry. They work very well side by side with her short stories, which was why I wanted to have the poems and the short stories together. Her voice in her poetry is very similar to her short stories in that she's very much exploring through language that is very intimate and sensitive, connections with nature and the human spirit. And there's sort of almost an impressionistic quality sometimes to her poetry, which is very fitting for the time period that she was writing in. And I really love the nature that is laced throughout her poetry and in her short story writing as well. There is at times a bit of a saccharine, sugary sentimentality in some of the poetry, and especially some of the poems that are geared toward children and younger readers. She did write verse for children as well. But there is such a beautiful lyricism as well that cannot be denied, and a rather brave and generous and genuine, beautiful voice. Just as I say, the nuances of the human experience. Let me read a poem for you. And this is also, again, with the nature as a big theme. Now I am a plant, a weed. Now I am a plant, a weed, bending and swinging on a rocky ledge. And now I am long brown grass, fluttering like flame. I am a reed, an old shell singing, forever the same, a drift of sedge, a white stone, a bone, until I pass into sand again, and spin and blow to and fro, on the edge of the sea in the fading light, for the light fades. But if you were to come, you would not say, she is not waiting here for me. She has forgotten. Have we not in play disguised ourselves as weeds and stones and grass, while the strange ships did pass, gently, gravely, leaving a curl of foam that uncurled softly about our island home, bubbles of foam that glittered on the stone like rainbows? Look, darling, no, they are gone, and the white sails have melted into the sailing sky. That's such a really beautiful poem, analyzing in a very beautiful lyrical way, the natural elements and how they change over time, and just the cycle of life, the life of nature, but also the life of ourselves, of human life, the life cycle, the human cycle of life. It is very nice to have this warm cup of tea on this chilly morning. In my cup today, I have a lovely Assam afternoon tea. It is one of my favorite black teas, and I'm really enjoying this cup of tea. I wonder what's in your cup today as we're having this cozy chat. You'll have to let me know in the comments. I keep the tea in a favorite old tin, a Fortnum & Mason tin, which used to have the Royal Blend, and this is the packaging from 2012, from a very special trip to London, the year I turned 40, and I've kept the tin ever since. I keep loose leaf tea in here, and usually black teas because of scent. Teas can pick up different scents. Packaging can pick up different scents. So this is the one I keep different black teas in, and it's just such a treasure. I love opening the cupboard and seeing this tin and making whatever tea happens to be in it at the time. So let's have an extra sip of tea, and we'll talk more about our books. For the next category, we'll talk about some nonfiction books. And I have enjoyed a couple of very good books in the nonfiction category during June. And this is one that I featured in my reading vlog, my Read With Me, a couple of weeks ago. Paper, Paging Through History by Mark Kurlansky. And this has been such a fantastic book. I have enjoyed this so much. It explores one of the most important pieces of human technology, paper. We take it for granted, don't we? And especially for us book lovers, it's part of our lives all the time, isn't it? But it's really fantastic to take a step back and think about the history of it. Where did it come from, and why even? And Mark Kurlansky, who he often has a very investigative reporter style of writing about very important topics to human living and existing and history, but in such a way that is incredibly readable. It's very entertaining reading. And his book on paper is no less entertaining than some of his previous works. Paper as we know it began in China and in the Middle East. And this came off of a time, paper came to be after a time period of human existence where, of course, we think about the cave paintings and carvings millennia ago. We could think about that as the first forms of writing and expression, creative expression. Was it writing? Is it art? I think it's both. I think it's telling us stories, the first storytelling means. And after a certain point in our development, we emerged from hunters and gatherers to farming, cultivating the land, cultivating food, not wandering as much where the food was. We were starting to produce our own food. And off of that came to be different businesses emerged through farming and production and other advancements in our human living. And that created a need for making notes, for accounting, and eventually things like taxes. You know, just when you think about it, keeping track of stores of things, and just also as we advanced, things are becoming more beautiful. The paper is becoming more beautiful, more valued beyond just keeping notes or accounts or taxes. It's merging into the arts and expression and music, and that becomes, down the line, books. And it's also interesting to think about how that artistic quality came from religious texts, thinking about things like the illuminated texts from the Renaissance period, and also because paper began in the East, think about the beautiful Japanese and Chinese scrolls. And the paper making that emerged from there was also from the start from Buddhist traditions and the need to write down the sutras. And in the religious communities, writing was seen as a gift from God, and paper fed off of that, off of that, and the desire to continue God's word. And it's just I find it so fascinating where everything is coming together in our development as humans, and through the means of paper, tracing the history of the making of the paper, an arduous task in times past, and it's still a very laborious task to make paper. We just have a lot more advancements in the technology of producing the paper. And it, of course, as people, we love to read, and paper also became an emerging technology when more and more people were becoming literate over time. It wasn't just wealthy people who had access to books, and sometimes those books were just almost like trophies. I'm this wealthy, I have all these books. And so there was society was changing in that way too. With paper, it's everything is emerging and changing together, and it's just such a fascinating education, this book. I really highly recommend Paper by Mark Kurlansky. If you are very interested in where paper, the history of paper, its early developments, and where we are now, the book traces up to current times when, of course, the advancements of technology, and certainly not the least digital technology, have brought into question the need for paper. Are we going to still be needing paper? Do we even need books? Those questions that have been presented for the past 10 years or much more. And the conclusion is yes, we will always need paper. There will always be a need for paper, even though we live in digital times, and certainly here in Norway, there is much less paper used for bureaucratic situations. For a lot is digital, accounting and various things. Paper money is almost not even used here anymore. You just swipe your plastic card. But there still is a need for paper for very important documents, and that will always be needed, I think. And plus, paper has a beautiful tactile quality. It's a very sensual experience to read a book, to touch a book. So especially us book lovers, we will still always want to be touching a physical book, I think. And this book, paper, it has deckled edges. I'm not sure if you can see very well. It's just beautiful. Just beautiful deckled edge. I love a deckled edge. I love paper. I love writing on paper. I love physical books. And I think it's a fascinating history, and paper and books are definitely here to stay. Well, that was a lot of excitement about the topic of paper, but I hope you enjoyed the conversation with me. And for another nonfiction work that I've read during the month of June, Thomas Merton, The Road to Joy. Letters to New and Old Friends. And this, the cover is a little on the dull and not so very engaging side. This is from 1989, and the wealth of joy in here is not very reflective of the cover, sadly to say. But if you are not aware of Thomas Merton, he was an American Catholic Trappist monk, mystic, poet, writer. He was also a noted theologian and a social activist as well. And he juggled all of those roles while maintaining a very engaging and lively correspondence with many people. Also, other noted writers, other noted theologians. He would exchange letters with emerging writers, young writers, and who were seeking his advice. His letters are full of just beautiful insights and wisdom into the human heart, and sharing that with others. He wrote so many letters during his lifetime. This particular book is one of several collected volumes, several collected and selected volumes of his letters. And there, some of these letters, this particular collection spans the time period of 1931, I believe it is, up until his death in 1968, when he died very tragically due to an accident while on a religious conference in Thailand. But some of the early letters are from his time before he devoted his life to God and was actually pursuing a career in writing. He is a very good writer. Thomas Merton has long been a spiritual hero of mine. I read his Seven Storey Mountain when I was a teenager, and it just really spoke to my spirit at the time. My spirituality felt like it was in a place where I was I had a lot of questions, and just that place of struggling to find the harmonious balance between desiring a very highly spiritual life, feeling a very highly spiritual connection to spirit, to nature, and to writing, to expressing oneself. And I fell in love with his personal and spiritual struggles very deeply. I still do. I love his writing. I keep turning back to it time and again. I've read many of his other books and journals, collected journals. I've just been in recent years dipping into the letters side of his life. I I had such a crush on him when I was a teenager. So I'm just thinking back. I had such a crush on him, and oh my, a crush on a monk and who was also dead. Oh my, but he just had a beautiful mind and a beautiful soul, and I just really connected to that through his writings, and I really just loved this book. I'm looking forward to reading more of his collected letters, and I'm still reading many more of his writing. There is so much of his work that has been published, and things and writing still emerging. There's just so many beautiful writings, and there are many places to find his writing as well. If you haven't read Thomas Merton before, if you appreciate the journey of the heart and the spirit, I can really recommend the writings of Thomas Merton. And for a little bit of fun, some manga reading. I enjoyed a bit of manga during the month of June, and I finished the Vampire Knight series by Matsuri Hino. And it was just, I had such a great time with this series. The artwork is fabulous. Halfway through, there are 19 volumes in the series, and about halfway through, there were some plot twists and turns, and the whole second half of the series, whole 8 volumes of the 19, there was just so much happening, and just so much engaging development of story and character. I just really, really enjoyed this series so much, and I look forward to reading more of Matsuri Hino. She has other series as well. There is a sort of a spin-off series, Vampire Knights Memories, which I've just discovered about, so I look forward to dipping into that, which picks up with 3 of the primary main characters from Vampire Knight. So there's that to look forward to. And I also continued with the Way of the Househusband by Kousuke Oono, and which I began in May, and during June I read volumes 3 and 4. And I'm really enjoying this really just zany, really funny series where with Tatsu, a former yakuza, a former gangster, and just how at every turn, every corner he goes around, there is trouble. He somehow gets into the most incredible and ridiculous scrapes. It is just so much fun. I'm having a great time with this series as well. The dynamic art style is really great. And I've begun a new series, manga series, A Sign of Affection by Suu Morishita. I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. This was such a sweet read, A Sign of Affection. We meet Yuki, a college student who is deaf. And she has a chance encounter with a fellow college student, and he is hearing, and they have just such a very meet cute at the beginning of this series, and it is so heartwarming to see how a hearing impairment. I don't even like the word impairment. A hearing difficulty is explored and expressed in this series, and it's very cute how Yuki is finding different ways to communicate with her new friend, and he with her, and she's using her cell phone as a little stopgap measure for communication. And that's what I'm really liking about this story already. What is communication? How do we achieve that? How do we express ourselves to the best of our ability with the abilities that we have? And I love the mix of how they're trying to use sign language and lip reading, and it's just such a sweet story of connection. How do we establish connection in any circumstance? It's just such a sweet story, and I'm loving the art style. There's just so much charm about this story, and I'm looking forward to picking up volume 2 very soon. There was perhaps a little less reading during the month of June, as I said, mainly to the fact that I wasn't able to get all of the reading that I was hoping to have for this month. And in some ways that it worked out very well. The reading was wonderful. I enjoyed my reading this month very much. But some life things were also happening at the same time. So just a little a life update here before we close. It was just some things happening behind the scenes here. I have a knitting pattern to get out these last days of the month. I'm also trying to figure out some things with my website. I'm needing to find a new host for my website. There's just been a lot of technical things with that. I'm trying to write a book. There's been a lot. Also, TJ and I, we will be at the early part of July. We will be taking a trip to visit my family in America, which very much looking forward to. It is the only time of year that I get to go and be with my family, so it's precious time. So it will be a bit quiet here the very beginning of July. And so I do hope to do a little bit of vlogging while we're there. I have a couple of book adventures I am really hoping to be able to enjoy and share with you after we're back. I probably won't be able to share any posts in the post section while we're away. It gets to be a very busy time, a lot of visiting with family. We try to squeeze it in as a bit of a vacation as well as visiting, so it gets to be a lot condensed in a relatively short time, and I don't usually have a lot of time to be online. So if I am slow to reply to you, to the comments or to questions, that will be why. But looking forward to the latter half of July, I will be having just a very just one, technically two selections of reading, hoping to for my Regency reading for the month of July, and that will be the duology by Susan Kay, None But You and For You Alone. And this is I'll say a retelling of sorts related to Jane Austen's Persuasion. But in this duology, we have Captain Wentworth's perspective. I read this duology many years ago, and I thought that I would bring this in for my Regency reading, my Jane Austen project for this year. I just really wanted to revisit it, and because of how July is going to be a very busy month mostly, I knew that I probably was not going to be able to order and read and through a whole month of July more Regency reading. So I selected something on the, I don't like to use the word the lighter side, but it will be easier for me this time. And I have these books on my Kindle, so I can have them while we're traveling soon. So that will be the Regency reading for the month of July. If you care to join me for that, I don't read a lot of the Jane Austen related retellings and spin-offs. Some have been good. Others have been just so for me. I just prefer Jane Austen herself. People get very imaginative with the stories. I admire wanting to tell extra stories related to some of our favorite Jane Austen characters. But this particular duology by Susan Kay, I really enjoyed that one very much, and looking forward to revisiting that one. And I'm uncertain when I will be posting another video in July. It will be after we are back from our trip. And I really hope that I will have some extra things to share with you, and book adventures as well. I am hoping to put together a notes from June video before we leave, so that will probably close out the month of June here for our sharing. And please let me know in the comments below what you have been reading this month. Please share with me your reading highlights. I love to know everything, you know. And so until next time, very soon again, I hope that you are well. I hope you are enjoying some good reading. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere welcoming summertime, I hope that you will have some lovely days ahead. And for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, it is winter now, and I hope that the season is treating you very kindly there as well. And I will look forward to seeing you again very soon. And until next time, I wish you, as always, many blessings.